are glad to have a awesome group with us. We have Regina Thurmond, Seth Shelby, and Taylor Hurlick. Thank you to everyone for joining us. My name is JC Williams. I'm the operations manager for Holspire and point of contact for the South Carolina Schools Network. The mission of the South Carolina Schools Network is to identify and promote healthy eating and active living strategies in South Carolina public schools that empower key stakeholders and encourage collaboration among those seeking to improve student health and academic achievement. Today's session is on advancing family engagement for a healthy classroom and community.
All right. Thank you, JC. I don't know what was the problem with all the technical difficulties this morning, but I am thankful for everyone's grace while we figured that out. So I appreciate it. So again, JC's with the Schools Network. I'm Erica Ayers. I'm the executive director for the South Carolina Governor's Council on Physical Fitness. I also serve as the school wellness consultant at DHEC's Division of Nutrition, Physical Activity, and Obesity Prevention. And a mission of the Governor's Council perfectly aligns with the Schools Network in supporting the health of all South Carolinians, specifically through the advancement of physical activity. An example of this collaboration is this webinar series that we've been putting on for several years now. The purpose is to enhance the collaboration between schools and communities using the whole school, whole community, whole child model as a framework to better support the health of our students. Today, for our webinar series, looking at this model, we're going to be focusing on family engagement, and we have some awesome presenters like JC mentioned with Alliance for a Healthier Generation and the South Carolina Department of Education. But before they get started, we want to get a better idea of who y'all are so they know who they are talking to. So we're going to open up our first poll. And JC, while folks are responding to that poll, we'll go ahead and introduce our first speakers.
All right. So thank you all for answering and introducing yourselves this morning. We are thrilled to have people from all sorts of professions joining us today. This morning, we will be hearing first from Seth Shelby and Taylor Hurlick. Seth is a Healthy Schools and Communities Program Manager with Alliance for a Healthier Generation. Since 2021, Seth has helped guide districts and schools in the diabetes-free South Carolina School Wellness Initiative Network toward healthier policies and practices. Seth is a former physical education and health education teacher in South Carolina public schools and obtained his BS in physical education and completed his Master's of Public Health from the University of South Carolina. Seth enjoys disc golf, paddling the Saluda River, and exploring the outdoors in search of reptiles with his son. Taylor is also a Healthy Schools and Communities Program Manager with Alliance for a Healthier Generation and has been working on the diabetes-free South Carolina School Wellness Initiative since 2022. Taylor comes from a family of educators, administrators, and school nurses who showed her the power of a strong public school system and sparked her passion for working with schools. After earning both a bachelor's and master's in health promotion, education, and behavior from the University of South Carolina, Taylor dedicated her career to working for policy, systems, and environmental changes that support the health of children, focusing on strengthening connections between schools, families, and communities. Taylor hopes to create environments where every young person can thrive.
Alrighty, thank you, JC, for that introduction, and we will go ahead and jump right into our presentation here. So welcome everyone and good morning to our presentation on trauma-informed family engagement practices. So today's session is going to focus on providing you an overview of an approach to family engagement practices and policies that are trauma-informed to benefit all people within your school or district community. We'll hop to the next slide. Thank you. So I want to take a quick moment to note that for this learning opportunity, you'll hear us use the term family or families, but there may be other chosen terminology that you have adopted, such as caregiver. We lean on the Human Rights Campaign Foundation's definition of families that recognizes any person who plays a significant role in an individual's life as family. Families for us expand beyond people legally related to an individual. We adopt this definition recognizing that language can be limiting. We believe that families can look different from one individual to another And our role is to be open, appreciative, and ready to acknowledge and work with people who support the youth that we serve. Before we start, I would love to begin to know the shared community that we have the pleasure of being in the company of and how we're all showing up today. So if in the chat box, either in text, meme, or emoji, you could share how you may be feeling by the season you might be in. So perhaps you're feeling like winter and you're ready to hibernate and rest, or you're feeling a little bit cold, or you may be in a really great space and blooming or closing out a project like our schools are preparing to close for the upcoming holiday breaks. Some of the things in our example of what a season may feel like is often very influenced by what goes on in the school year cycle. So if it means something different to you, if you could share that, please, as well. We have some great answers already coming in. I'm seeing a lot of falls, some winters. I see someone said summer. We got a spring coming in. Someone said all of them. Great answers. See a summer again. So lots of different seasons for people. So that's good for us to know everyone's coming in from a different space. So thank you all for sharing. Seeing some emojis. Great. Okay. So we are hopping on. So I am Taylor Hurlick, and I'm joined today by my colleague Seth Shelby. And as Healthy Schools and Communities program managers with the Alliance for a Healthier Generation, we work to support our South Carolina districts and schools in their wellness journeys, and are just super happy to be here with you all to talk today about family engagement tools and resources that we use throughout that journey. At Healthier Generation, our goal is to ensure that every mind, every body, and every young person is healthy and ready to succeed. The health and well-being of the people who care for children is so important to the health of children themselves. So as we move through this session, hold on to what will support you or the people you are in service to, where you are in your practice, and in the support to your schools and districts. Our intentions for today's session are to think reflectively and build our understanding as we take time to define meaningful family engagement, understand the trauma-informed lens and its application to family engagement policies and practices, explore some high-impact strategies, and be ready to take action at the close of our session, having at least one idea that you can go ahead and use in your daily work. So let's take a moment before we dive into the content to just establish some norms for our session. So first, this is your space. You're coming in with your own experience, your own needs, and we ask that you come to the table with us as a community of co-learners. You can share your thoughts and strategies and think through how this content applies to you. Which brings us to the second norm. Ask questions as they come. As you think about your role and those that you serve, you may have questions that may support you to bring this work back or apply it to your own work. Feel free to plug the questions into the chat or use the Q&A feature to ask any other questions, and we can follow up with you at the end. I invite everyone to feel comfortable sharing their knowledge, and we'll make sure that we have time to respond to questions at the end if we're unable to respond to them as they come in real time. Then we ask that we all come in open to new ideas and perspectives as we discuss family engagement. As we know, the world around us is constantly changing, and so too must we be ready to learn and adapt. And lastly, we'll be sure to share the resources from today with you at the end of the session so you can feel ready and equipped as you take on your next steps. And I'll ask that if there are any other norms that we want to add, if you could please share those in the chat box, and we'll make sure that we get those added. Alrighty. So for today's session, we're also going to be moving through some personal reflection exercises and opportunities. So before we go any further, I invite you to grab something to write with and something to write on, and then I will pass it over to Seth for our grounding activity.
Thanks, Taylor. So let's take some time to reflect and ground into our learning today. So I would like you to first think back to your earliest memory of learning. As you reflect, we invite you to close your eyes and breathe if you're comfortable and in a safe space to do so, as this may help you kind of recall that moment and what it felt like in your whole body. So as you're reflecting back, what was it? Who was there? Who taught you or gave you the space to explore? Where were you? Perhaps you can recall what it felt like in your whole body, what you could hear, smell, and see. We would absolutely love to hear from you in the chat box. So, what was your earliest learning memory, and maybe one thing that stuck out significantly as you recalled it? Just want to give you some time to share out in the chat. Love to hear about that first learning. Right. So we wait for some of those to pour in. We will move on. Can't wait to read some of these responses. 4K. Gotta love our 4K. Learning about the fall. Mine was also a 4K lesson, and it was learning about, we were learning about rain and the water cycle. So that was mine. We had a little song and dance, and it's so incredible how that music can stick out in your brain. Well, I look forward to reading more as they come in. Thank you so much. All right. So for some of us, our earliest learning experience took place outside of school. In informal educational settings and in the most underrated learning spaces, our homes. It's important to acknowledge and appreciate that learning happens everywhere. This understanding can really free up educators from the pressure to be the sole educator. And we can really get creative as we think about what is really possible. So many of us have heard the expression, it takes a village to raise a child. As a father, I can attest to that. It is with this in mind that we frame family and community engagement throughout this session. We are all working within the broad village that students are a part of to support them as they grow and move towards self-actualization. Within our roles, we have a responsibility to acknowledge, incorporate, and invite to the table the community our youth are a part of, to make them collaborators in their education and supporters in our work to maximize our capacity for impact in the time that that young person is under our care.
But what is meaningful family engagement and what does it even look like? We're going to spend a little bit of time here collectively understanding the nuance of meaningful family engagement. So in this shared responsibility, schools commit to meaningful and interactive engagement, and families commit to being supportive partners in their child's learning and development. So this shared responsibility, these often unspoken commitments, remind us that we are in a dynamic relationship with our families by extension of our work. The National Association for Family, School, and Community Engagement defined family engagement as a shared responsibility between schools and families that is continuous and developmental, and that is impactful in all areas where students live, learn, and play. So let's take a moment here and do some reflection and think about what family engagement looks like at your school. So if we could use the chat box to share some ideas or some things that we have going on in the family engagement realm in our schools, that would be awesome. I see someone said games, food, fun, laughter. Those are all fabulous. Perfect. Alrighty, so moving along. It's important to remember that it's not family engagement, it's engagement with families. So we're working to move toward collaborative and dynamic relationships with families, united under the same purpose, the well-being of the young person that we all care for. With everything that people have already on their plates, we know that engaging families can be challenging, especially in recent years. With so many obstacles, families and schools have had to adapt quickly. To be able to plan for successful collaboration and build meaningful relationships with families, it can help to address the barriers that exist. So we're going to go ahead and put out a poll here, or you could use the chat box as well to share what the barriers are that you're encountering when it comes to family engagement. Feel free to share what numbers coming up for you or what barrier you encounter the most via that poll or via the chat box as well. Getting some of those poll answers coming in. I see some people putting things in the chat box as well. I see 2, 3, 6, and 7. Great. Thank you all for sharing that. And I will go ahead and pass it off to Seth.
Thanks, Taylor. So there is no question that family engagement is valuable and necessary to meet the outcomes and goals we lay out during the school year. But because family engagement is really about connecting people with people, it's important to adopt a culture and model of engagement that is trauma informed to support sustaining those transformative relationships. Family engagement can be really hard, but it's so worth it. The research shows that meaningful family engagement does more than just promote academic success. Meaningful family engagement can have impacts on families' health, habits, communication styles, and improved school environments, as well as increased attendance, better teacher parent relationships, fewer disciplinary actions, and so much more. As we go through this content, it's really important to remember the goal of trauma informed approach is not to change families or young people. And it is not about following a set of practices in a particular order, but rather it's to change our mindsets and responses. Maintaining a stance of curiosity is going to help us hold space for the whole family. These are the 6 principles of a trauma informed approach. They come from an organization called HEARTS, which stands for Healthy Environments and Response to Trauma in Schools. These principles are interconnected and they can be woven into everything that we do. So, anytime we talk about taking action, we want to make sure that we're guided by and grounded in these 6 principles. We don't have enough time to address the principles deeply today, but we will be paying special focus to understanding trauma and stress. The principles are understanding trauma and stress, cultural humility and equity, safety and predictability, compassion and dependability, empowerment and collaboration, and resilience. If you want to learn more about the HEART 6 principles of trauma-informed approach, I invite you to participate in our 2-part training, the Trauma-Informed Approach for Educators, or visit the HEARTS website.
So in our approach to family engagement, we allow the trauma-informed principles to influence our policies, practices, as well as support our relationships with families. In this, we apply the first principle of understanding trauma and stress by committing to shifting our perspectives and understanding that trauma may be present. We apply the second principle, cultural humility and equity, by committing to embracing all cultures and bringing equity to the forefront. We apply the third principle, safety and predictability, by committing to setting up systems and opportunities built on safety and predictability. We apply the fourth principle, compassion and dependability, by committing to growing our compassion for families and our dependability. We apply the fifth principle, empowerment and collaboration, by committing to empowering families and building opportunities for collaboration. And we apply the last principle, resilience, by committing to the resilience and the well-being of our communities and families. So today we're asking, what do you or what can you commit to? And if you could share in the chat box your commitments to being trauma-informed, we would really appreciate that. And we'll hold here just to see what responses we get to come in. See some great answers coming in already. Setting up systems and opportunities built on safety, empowering families and building opportunities, growing compassion, see a commitment to all of them, setting up systems and being open to listen to families' real experiences without judgment or preconceived notions. These are all great ideas. Thank you all for sharing your commitments. And we have another question here for you. So what strengths does your school bring to these commitments, and where do you see some opportunities in those strengths or in these commitments? Love to see whatever ideas are coming up from you all. You see mental health staff as a strength here. Schools are always trying to reach families in new ways and build on its previous efforts every year. That is a great strategy. That's awesome. Alrighty.
Right. So, as your team identifies areas of opportunity in your family engagement approach, there may be small steps that can have a high impact. So, in John Hattie's groundbreaking book, Visible Learning, he notes family engagement has a significant influence on student success. In fact, Hattie's most recent analysis suggests that family engagement being more impactful than classroom management, homework, or reducing class size. To find high impact strategies, we need to not just look at the research, but we also have to think about those strategies within your own school community context. No matter what strategy you choose, it's imperative that the implementation be rooted in three important pillars. The first pillar of high impact strategies is to be collaborative. This means the activities, policies, and practices support meaningful opportunities for family voice and choice. One way to foster collaboration with the families you serve is to get them involved. And so, one resource from our Cole's Healthy at Home campaign that provides quick evidence based strategies that can increase family participation in this school decision making is the Involving Families in Decision Making tool. This incredible tool also includes examples and stories from some of America's Healthiest School Award winners. So you can scan the QR code to connect to involving families in decision making in this resource and just share it with your team. So the second pillar is being culturally competent. Activities, policies, and practices should explicitly recognize the diverse backgrounds and experiences of all families. They center and honor all family identities. And the last pillar is that high impact strategies are focused on student health and learning. All caregivers and educators have the same common goal for students to thrive. Educators and parents both have unique experiences that they bring to the achieving that common goal. By focusing on the needs of the child, families and educators work together to co-construct systems of support. You can go ahead and go forward one more. There we go. So we know that family engagement has been linked to higher achievement, improved social skills, and better mental health. And so to support the well-being of young people, consider the strategies in this one-page resource and just reflect with your team on areas where you hold strengths and where there's opportunity to innovate and improve those systems. So you can scan the QR code to connect to Engaging Families in Health PDF. So the most effective strategies to improve student health and learning that parents and caregivers influence fall into one of these three categories. First is creating and maintaining opportunities for parental involvement. So parental involvement is more than just attendance at conferences and PTO meetings. It also includes things like helping with homework, volunteering at school, communicating positively with children about school, and attending extra or co-curricular activities. So broadening our definition of parental involvement will help us move away from counting only attendance at in-school events as effective parent engagement and open a world full of other possibilities based on the unique values of our families. The second high impact strategy is promoting high parental expectations of their children. And the third is supporting home environments.
Here we go. So research has shown that home environments with plenty of learning and language opportunity impact student achievement across their school career. Additionally, when students receive adequate sleep, nutrition, and physical activity, overall wellness and achievement increases. Schools play a critical role in helping families create home environments that foster academic learning, emotional literacy, and learning that promotes health-positive behaviors. Supporting the home environment means working to gain a deep understanding of your families and community. Taking time to talk with families and community members to determine what supports would be most beneficial to them and connecting them to local resources. And as we discussed before, take time to understand the cultural identities of the community to identify potential barriers and facilitators to receiving support from outside systems. All communities have resources that can support families. Places like libraries, food pantries, churches, and local businesses have a vested interest in healthy, happy communities and may have more community trust than the school. So consider how you can partner with community organizations to support the health initiatives and overall well-being of the students you serve. And on the next slide, we'll have a QR code that will help to connect to that resource, partnering with community and health organizations, and JC's also including that resource in the chat as well. And then we also wanted to share some resources that can support the families and youth you serve, even when they're away from school and then soon home for the holidays. This resource is available in both English and Spanish and can be accessed via the QR codes on the screen here or also in the chat. The take-home activity bag card resource includes pages that can be cut into cards and provide families with fun and quick physical activity ideas. Families can also deepen their connections to each other by working with their young person and support their motivation and goals by completing a student vision board. Consider sharing this tool with families as your next family meeting or sending it home for winter break. We have the QR codes again and the links there available for you as well. And another great tool to help families stay connected is the 20 Family Bonding Activities resource. The ideas in this resource include ideas for free or easy at-home activities that families can do together. And you can also scan and connect to the 20 Family Bonding Resources activities via the QR codes or the chat box as well.
So as we close out, think about one thing that we can do to take action toward building a more meaningful family engagement practice. So much of our time together was for your reflection, and we would just love to hear after today's session, how would you build on or invite others to pause, reflect, and think about the implications of being trauma informed in your daily work practice? We start talking about taking action, just remember that the goal of trauma informed approach is not to change families and the people around us, but instead is about us changing our approach. Meaningful family engagement is a cornerstone of student success. Regardless of the strategies you choose, all family engagement policies, practices, and activities are best implemented when rooted in the 6 trauma informed core principles. By setting up your school with this foundation, you will help ensure more meaningful, dynamic, and sustainable engagement with all families. So, what's next for you? We encourage you to share in the chat around some ideas that are coming up for you regarding how you can integrate this into your school culture and systems. One idea, if you work in a co-teaching team, this is just a great tool to guide a pre-planning conversation. If you're a coach or an admin, you can really invite those you supervise or work with to share a professional boundary with you. Utilizing parent input in planning. Absolutely. A parent voice is so important. And I'll give some more time to let those come in, but we, for the sake of time, will move along to the next slide. So be sure to sign up and encourage other families. Okay, just thank you for your time and learning to share together today. We appreciate you.
Thank y'all, Seth and Taylor. That was outstanding information and great resources that were shared with all of us. We will have a Q&A portion at the end of the presentation, and I believe we will have a question about how to set up the Healthier Generation account. So at the end, we'll circle back on that. So thank y'all so much for your information. Next up, we have the outstanding Regina Thurman, who she serves as the Family and Community Engagement Liaison in the Office of Student Support at the South Carolina Department of Education. She has over 27 years in education, serving in multiple leadership roles, focusing on comprehensive dropout prevention, leadership development for educators, service to underserved populations, parent, family, and community engagement, and continuous school improvement. She is thankful for the opportunity to serve in such a vital role of engaging educators, families, and communities in ways that contribute to student success in schools and beyond.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And I'm just excited for the opportunity to be here this morning to share with you some of the work that's coming out of the State Department of Education. And so, as you can see from the next slide, I really would like to sort of kind of this morning highlight the South Carolina Family and Community Engagement K-12 framework and address the when, the what, and the why, and share knowledge of some of the collaborative efforts that's taking place across the agency. If you don't mind, this morning, I would like to kick off our time together by asking you to share with us in the chat box, what are you reading these days? What book, what journal, what article, what publication? And I'm even going to throw in conference. Maybe you attended a conference just recently. I think for the most part, when it comes to family community engagement, there is such a wealth of research-based, proven, tried research that's out there. Would love to just hear from you in terms of what are you reading, what are you hearing, and what publication have you maybe read most recently that's helping you to stay abreast of the work that's being done. And so as that information is coming in the chat, let me pull up some of this. I want to share with you some of the work that, some of the information that I've come across. As you can see from one of the research, and keep it coming. Please continue to share with us. This is good information. Yes, the conference. Here's a book, hot off the press, that I'm currently reading at this time. If you're familiar with the National Association for Family, School, and Community Engagement, NASCE, just recently put out this book, Family and Community Partnerships. I love the book. It offers a new look at competencies, strategies, and practices for effective partnership building for educators. And so if you don't know it, here's an opportunity for you to check it out. It's a really good book that's offered by leaders from NASCE. As you can see from the next slide, I want to share with you one of the things that we did here at the State Department of Education just recently. We wanted to just hear from our stakeholders, hear from those that we serve and we lead. So for the first time at our 2023 Family and Community Engagement Summit, we put in place a journal article. This is a new feature for the summit. So we invited folks from across the state to submit journals, to submit any of their work that they wanted us to consider for this publication. And as you can see here, we had some folks to submit articles for publication that were accepted, and we're providing the link or the QR code. If you have time, these are 3 that were accepted, that if you are willing to, if you have time to go back and take a look and would like to see some of the work that's being done across our state, this is such a great opportunity for you to do so. So here's a QR code and the link to access that information. For the sake of time, don't have a time to really get into it, but I just wanted to share that with you. So my question to you, are you familiar with the South Carolina Family Engagement Framework? And if not, it's okay, because this is an opportunity for us to share this information with you. So when you think about the work that's being done around family and community engagement, it is a deep ocean. And how we do that, if you think about the information that was just shared with you from our previous presenters, a wealth of information, meaningful, relevant, effective family engagement does not just happen. And so here at the State Department of Education, we've put in place this framework, this roadmap, this compass, this guide to help guide our work. And so again, we're offering up the link or the QR code to access this information. It would be good if indeed you're able to do that so that you can follow along with me, because I am going to highlight some of the key strategies from the work that came out of this framework, the convening that took place in 2029 when they put this framework in place. I want to share with you some of those strategies, some of the research-based strategies that came out of this. So again, the QR code is here to pull the document because we don't have time to go through it in a more thorough way, but you can add this to your wealth of information as well. So as you can see from the next slide, the overall goal and purpose of the family and community engagement framework on page 4, it talks about our purpose. And our bottom line purpose is to sort of kind of help support schools and districts to think about just how are they implementing an effective kind of approach to dealing with families, removing barriers to help set families and students up for success. And so the framework is a roadmap for us to support schools, districts across the state. On the next slide, you'll see one of the things that I think that I'm just so proud of for the state of South Carolina. Way back in 2000, legislation mandates came out to help promote family engagement. Not sure if you all are aware, but if you have the document or here on the screen, you can see that if you want to go back and take a look at some of that work in terms of how we continue to not only promote it, but how do we support the schools and districts and keep it meaningful for all who serve? You look at the document talks about how the state superintendent has been charged, and it's outlined in the format. There are certain things that our state superintendent has been charged with doing to help promote family community engagement, effective engagement. Also, mandates are in place for district superintendents, and believe it or not, even our parents, and it's all outlined in the framework if you're able to access it. As you can see, this family and community, the position from where I serve and lead is also highlighted in there. And I think that's really speaks to the seriousness of the state of South Carolina being serious about promoting effective, meaningful family and community engagement across our states. From the next slide, you'll see also there is a definition. South Carolina defines family engagement as when families are actively involved in the learning and development of all students to become college and career ready. And there is talk about adding military to this as well, because not everybody's going to a 4-year college. But how do we set our students, our families up for success? And so it's not just parents, showing up at school, but how are we helping them to get more involved, to have meaningful relationships with the school, to partner with schools and districts? So it's not enough to just show up, but how are you actively involved in the learning of all of that? And what are schools and districts doing to make that happen? It's a two-way, a partnership is a two-way process. And so as you will see on the next slide, we know. What do we know? We know that students succeed when families, school, and community join together. It is all about the partnership. It is all about how are we as educators helping families to not just be involved, not just show up, but to keep it meaningful. That was one of the points that was emphasized by our previous presenters. I love the fact that we're talking about meaningful connections. And so how do we do that? It is a two-way process that involves not just the school, not just the parents and districts, but how are we welcoming partners to help us do that? If there's one thing that we know more than anything at this point in time, COVID has helped us to see that schools can no longer, districts can no longer do it alone. We need community organizations. We need civic organizations to get involved and help us to do that before school, during school, after school, and especially after school. The book that I mentioned to you earlier, the one Family Community Partnerships, one of the things I love about the book is that it emphasizes that after school piece. What's happening after school to help, foster that parental involvement? Our students are leaving and they're going to these after school programs. And so where does that fit into the grand scheme of things in terms of effective communication? So with that being said, part of what came out of the framework, as you'll see on the next slide, 5 strategies. There are 5 family engagement strategies that have been proven to work. And as you can see, and they're highlighted here, building relationships is key. It is incredibly important. It's one thing to say that we need to build relationships, but how do we do that? How do we help build the capacity of the folks who are in the trenches that's doing this work, schools and districts, build those healthy relationships? When you think about it, there are a lot of things that's happening in our schools and in our districts, but relationships matters. Think about it. In some of our schools, they're making home visits to connect with those parents, meeting those parents where they are, acknowledging the cultures. Our former presenters talked about this. It's very important. Another key strategy is communication, two-way communication. It's not just schools and districts telling parents, but also wanting parents, inviting parents in to sort of kind of have voice and say about partnering with their child and setting that child up and family up for success. And so how do we do that in a way that is meaningful? The third strategy, linking families to learning outcomes. So think about where you are and where you serve. Even with our previous presenters the presenters earlier talking about some of the things that they're doing to help bridge and connect. All of that plays into families needing to understand just what the school has to offer to support them and how they are to benefit from some of that. And so when you think about what's happening in the schools, there are a lot of great activities, events that's taking place to help foster the learning and parents participating in that process as well. Looking at the fourth one, collaborative practices, which is our fourth strategy that we're saying to you that when we work together, stronger together than working in silos, schools, staff, and parents, so how are we doing that? What opportunities are available for schools and districts, community, and parents to participate in that and help foster that? And of course, last but not least, community partnership is super, super incredible, more now than ever. If we didn't learn anything from this pandemic, we know that there is such power in partnerships for parents, for community. And so making sure that schools and districts are aware of the resources and the services and programs and events that's available to them to help promote some of the work that's being done. As I said to you earlier, the strategies that we're talking about are incredibly important. As you can see from the next slide, if you look at some of the work that's taking place across this country, as a matter of fact, Karen Mapp's work, the dual capacity, if you were to take our framework and look at where it aligns with some of the other national models, Karen Mapp's the dual capacity framework talks about the removal of barrier. I love what she talks about in terms of looking at systems. Our framework talks about the same thing. It aligns. Joyce Epstein, if you're not familiar with Joyce Epstein's work around the 6 types of parental involvement, we know that parents need to be involved, but how do we set them up? And so our framework also not only set parents up for success and help strengthen the partnership between home, school, community, but we talk about ways in which we can do that. As you can see from the next slide, family and community in education, it matters. It matters for the students, the teachers, the families, for everyone involved. It is important that those avenues of connections are available, that we're making sure that we're removing those barriers, that we're setting teachers up for success, that we're making parents and families feel comfortable coming into that school, and that we're leveling the playing field to make sure that these families have access to resources and services and programs, that schools are working together, even within your school. Think about the role that the community plays in your school before, during, and after. So we must be intentional about our learning and continuous improvements. I'm happy to share with you, as you can see from the next slide, some of the work that's taking place within the State Department of Education. Here we have the Internal Family Engagement Roundtable. This is a group of representatives from across the agency. We meet quarterly, and we collaborate, we present, we share research, and we share our data. And so if you look, the Office of Student Support, the Office of Federal Education, Early Learning and Literacy, all of these offices, we come together quarterly. In fact, we just met on Monday to not only talk about, what we're doing, but to support one another and look for opportunities to collaborate, and especially around building the capacity of the folks who are, in the trenches, on the front line, doing this work, schools, districts, and equipping them with the skills that they need to be successful. As you can see from the next slide, we meet quarterly, and so we will continue to do that. Another, from the next slide, you'll see not only are the roundtables in place for us internally, for us to come together, get on the same page, but also here are some of the other services that's being offered this year. Just at a glance, you'll see, and I'll touch on it a little bit, some of the other services that's being offered. So we have the internal roundtable. Another service that's being offered to help promote and support effective, meaningful family engagement across our state. We offer school-level parent and family engagement roundtables, and that's held this year. We're doing it. We offer a session in the fall and in the spring of the year. District level, statewide parent family engagement roundtables are also held during the fall and spring of the year. This is an opportunity for educators to come together. As I said to you earlier, one of our goals is to strengthen and build the capacity of those folks, equip them with the skills that they need to address all of the multitudes of needs that comes out of our community and our homes, our families, our parents. Another service I mentioned to you earlier regarding the 2023, we held a summit, the South Carolina Family and Community Engagement Summit that was held back in September. This is an opportunity not only for us to showcase and spotlight some of the phenomenal work that's taking place in our communities, in our schools, and in our districts. Some of our schools and districts are at ground zero. They're looking to implement an effective parent-family engagement program system within their school or their districts. Some of our districts are larger, they have more resources, they have more funding, but there's always room for improvement. And so they're looking to scale up. They're looking to improve the work that they're doing. And so this is a chance. The summit serves as an opportunity, not only for us to bring together stakeholders from across the state, but to showcase some of the work that's being done and to share some of the research that's taking place across the nation. Another opportunity is the we're looking this year we're planning this year for the 2024 Family Engagement Summit. And so as you'll see from the next slide, when I talk about the convenings, the statewide convenings, as I just said to you, we offer up the state level parent family community engagement roundtables, the district roundtables. As you'll see from the next slide, so the statewide learning opportunities for the school level and the district level, these are the dates. So we just met, well, not just, but we met August for the school level. We met August 31st, and we'll meet again in April. And then for the district level, if you are a district leader, parent, family-facing practitioner, military, we're talking military families, we're talking teachers, we're talking school counselors, school librarians, parent family engagement liaisons. This is an opportunity for these district level, school level folks to come to the table at these convenings. And it's a chance for them to not only network with one another and hear from one another some of the phenomenal work that's taking place across our state to promote effective family community engagement. The next slide, you'll see when we met back in August, here are our presenters for the state level and the district level, the school level and the district level roundtables. And so we invite experts to come and share their expertise. And as I said earlier, it's also an opportunity for them to network with us. You'll see from the next slide that another offering out of the State Department of Education, March of 2024, we offer up the family and community engagement webinars for educators. A huge success last year. We will do it again this year. So every Wednesday during the month of March, we will promote and offer up a series of webinars for educators to just go deeper, to help connect, to help share some of the work that's taking place across the state, best strategies and practices. On the next slide, it's just an example of how the information goes out. So last year, for educators, we were able to not only share this on our listserv, and I'll share that information with you as well, but this is how we sent it out via our memo, so that goes out to districts, personnel, so that they can share with their educators information. And we encourage you this year, when we push this information out, to please join us. The sessions, the webinars are free. They're 1 hour, and it's a great way to just learn so much about effective family community engagement, some of the work that's taking place across the state. You will see on the next slide, we do not do this work alone. Here are some of our, and this is just a little smidgen. We have quite a few partners, but these are just a few of our partners that help us to do this work. I mentioned to you earlier about the Family Engagement Summit. You'll see on the next slide, our summit for the 2023 summit was held back in September. And I'm telling you this because I really want to put this on your radar. First of all, we have a framework for effective family community engagement, but we also have other opportunities for us to connect and share this work. And so the summit took place. This is the summit that took place back in September. We will do it again in 2024. This year, we were very fortunate to not only hear from our military, some of the work that's taking place on our military across the current state, with regards to our military families, but we were fortunate this year to have National Executive Director Vito Borello, who is the Executive Director for the National Association for Family School Community Engagement. NASCE was our keynote speaker. Some of you may be very familiar with Dr. Tammy Pulowski. Her work, she's very involved and very, from Francis Marion, does a phenomenal work around family community engagement as well. So I'm telling you this to put it on your radar. We'll be pushing this information out for the 2024 summit, and would love for you to join us and be a part of that. So you may be asking, well, how do we get involved? Here you go. We invite you to please join us. If you're not a subscriber of the Parent Family Engagement listserv here at the department, please, the QR code, the link will drop in the chat as well, to stay abreast, to stay informed, to stay connected. Please join us. And so I say that to say that the bottom line for us is FACE is not only, in fact, that FACE is family community engagement. It's not only about building the capacity of the folks who are on the front line and in the trenches, our educators who serve at so many different levels, building the capacity of those folks, but it's also about building parent power. It's also about building opportunities for us to connect. And so I thank you and look forward to hearing from you. And here's my contact information. Thank you.
Thank you, Regina. And thank you for your insight into what is happening throughout South Carolina, especially in the Department of Education. That was wonderful information. So we're very grateful to hear from you. I'm personally looking forward to learning more during the March webinar series. That's super exciting. So at this time, we have a couple of minutes for Q&A. I know there was a question about the Alliance for Healthier Generation account setup. If you have any additional questions, now is a great time to put them in the chat. Seth, see your video popping back up. Could you give us a brief little overview of the account setup just before we check
Absolutely. Out? We're also going to share some information. We have a really amazing resource, which is a free text messaging service for families, and it's something that is really incredible, and it's meant to send free messages that are to empower and inspire healthy family living together, and in conjunction with our Kohl's Healthy at Home resources. You're going to be blown away by the amount of things that you're going to find on there that are accessible, again, family friendly, and accessible for all ages. Something that I personally like to use with my son on rainy days when we have some activities we need to do inside. So I really highly recommend you take advantage of that. As you can see in the chat, we have the Healthy at Home text where you can get signed up. And Taylor was so kind as to share a how to get registered linked. We have an amazing member and engagement support team that has all kinds of videos to support every single step of the way in terms of getting your school wellness team together, ensuring that you're able to access assessments, access action planning, access resources. You will be, again, just blown away by the amount of support that you have at Healthier Generation to get you set up. And of course, as we mentioned throughout, as Regina mentioned, and as we mentioned, having parent voice and choice as a part of this process is incredibly imperative to increasing family and community engagement within the school wellness setting. So to create those systems, we've got to get our parents registered as well. And yes, we do have resources available in Spanish, Allison. I'm glad you brought that up. So you will notice on the Cole's Healthy at Home resources, there will be options for some of those resources to be provided in Spanish. So again, I highly recommend you take advantage of some of these free resources that are available to you and share and promote with the families that you work with.
Thank you, Seth. I don't believe we have any additional questions, so I'll turn it over to Erica for our closeout.
Thank you, JC. And another really big thank you to Regina, Taylor, and Seth. Just thank you for taking the time and sharing the space with us to share your expertise in family and community engagement. We love these opportunities. We love being able to provide these opportunities. And just, I think y'all mentioned it, share just some additional resources that we can put in our tool belt that we know we can go to. And knowing that y'all are also available to each and every one of us as a resource is also great. So thank you again. If you guys do have some additional questions, you can still ask them. We may not have time to answer them, but our speakers can send you the responses when we send a follow-up email, which we anticipate to go out next week. That will include a recording of today's webinar. So if you have friends and family and coworkers who weren't able to make it and didn't register, they can still access the recording. All recordings are actually housed on wholespire.org webpage, so you can always go there to check out the recordings. This is our last webinar for 2023, but we have a ton coming up in 2024. So do not worry. We are just taking a break for the holidays. So you can go ahead and register for our 2024 webinars. They're listed here. More detailed flyers will be coming out soon. I will tell you that both webinars in January, we presenters are knocking on our door. They're like trying to, break it down. They're like, we want to share information with your network. So we're like, please come and do that. So we've actually scheduled 2 webinars you'll see in January around employee wellness. And we've actually also scheduled 2 in March around nutrition and environmental services. So make sure you go check those out. Detailed flyers for January's webinars will be coming out soon. And with that, just thank y'all again for showing up and being engaged. We really appreciate it. And we just hope that y'all have a healthy, happy holiday season to come. Thank you.